Do you get a bit of bitchiness from other women about kind of how you look?
I will not be getting in your van. I'm like 11 years too legal for you.
Carla, welcome to Men Don't Talk. There's always a section in the show where Ben just loses it.
You think that women talk? We talk about everything else except what's actually relevant.
We tonight are privileged and honoured to be joined by a budding comic that I've seen a good few times in and around the kind of Manchester Northwest circuit. Lovely lady, a kind of a performance is very kind of courageous. She's very opinionated, very bold in her stance. And she's always got a story to tell on Instagram. So it was kind of interesting. I think a couple of weeks ago, we had a good podcast in regards to kind of women's questions. So I thought it'd be good to get a women's perspective on here. And out of most of the men I know, Scarlett has got the biggest balls. So I would like to welcome to Men Don't Talk podcast a lovely lady by the name of Scarlett Dobson.
Hey guys.
Comic has...
Scarlett, can you prove that about the balls or not?
No, I will say I don't have balls. I've got ovaries of titanium. Don't fuck with me.
Fair enough.
So Scarlett, just for our listeners, I would give you kind of an intro, but I don't want to be blowing smoke up your ass too much. But I do enjoy your show. I do enjoy your sets. Can you just give us a kind of an idea of your background? How you got into comedy, where you're actually from?
Right. So I was born in Catford, born and raised in Catford, which is in South East London. Then moved out, went to a performing arts school because a lot of what I did with amateur dramatics was too comedy, and I thought, like, I've got a great comedy base, let me try and expand my range. And then I realised, I don't like fucking taking life seriously at all. So I went to University of Kent after, and legit, like, it was my second choice uni, but I saw that they did a master's option in stand-up comedy, and I turned to my then boyfriend at the time, and he went, "You could never fucking do that." Cut to the moment he breaks up with me, I'm like, fuck this shit, I'm so totally doing that, prove him wrong. And my stage career started 7 years ago now. Yeah, I was 20 when it started, 7 years ago. And I was pestering a group called the 3.5 Pints, which have now completely broken up. Robin is the main procrastinator in this story. He does stuff with The Noise Next Door now. And I kept pestering every week, going, how do you do this? How do you guys do it? Because I would be so interested and would love to do it. And 1 week they turned around and they said, "We're accepting people for next week. If you don't do it this week coming, you're not doing it ever. We're never going to give you the chance." So I just bit the bullet and did my first stand-up set then. And because it went too well, I decided I didn't need to touch it for another 4 years. So then I was a bit arrogant and I completely fell at the hurdles because I was like, now I'm a comedian. I've had my first round of applause during a set. I'm ace. Did it at university and then left uni, came to London, did it a little bit here, and then took it a lot more seriously when I moved to Manchester 2 years ago. So that's kind of my story.
Can I ask you a question there? Sorry, Scarlett. Can I ask you a quick question there that just popped straight up then? That first set there, you got a round of applause on your first set as well.
Yes, I did. I needed that. So madly, actually, about that story is that I wrote that set in my dreams. I literally woke up from a night's sleep after having this dream about my set, and I just had to get up and write the jokes and write the set down, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, I dream jokes. That's how my best material comes in my sleep.
Yeah, I get that. I think.
Do you remember what your best joke at the set was? Your first set.
So that was 2013 when I did my first set. Yeah, I'm going to say I've got it on YouTube. I'm not going to encourage anyone to go watch it. That was purely for my family in Canada to go watch, and now I've had loads of people go, "Oh yeah, what's your first set?" The joke isn't even that funny. It's actually it's aged really badly and it doesn't work anymore. But at the time, they're like, "Oh, that's so funny."
It's just like me, that aged badly and doesn't work anymore.
Now, the one thing I've kind of really liked about you, Scarlett, is you seem to be fearless when you're on stage, when you're on Instagram. You don't hold back in terms of your opinions. Has that always been part of you and your persona and your personality, or is that something you've cultivated and grown as you've got older?
I would say it was much more of me when I was younger. I have grown up in a family just full of fearless women. So that's just kind of been me, to be loud and opinionated. And I was brought up pretty much gender neutral until I was 8. So I wasn't really aware of the constructs of like keeping your mouth shut because you're a woman and not being able to get what you want in society because you went to a shit school because you couldn't afford the schooling, or I didn't understand that white privilege played a thing, and I didn't understand why I was being called the P word at school because of my mixed race heritage. Just loads of it was just kind of one of those. It was kind of develop yourself and then learn where you stand in society, so that if it does come, society comes knocking, you can just be like, oh, fuck off, I'm an individual, leave me alone. And that's kind of staged a lot of like the way I am on stage. And I think on stage I feign it a lot more. It's a lot easier when you say about Instagram stories because you've kind of, people are going to watch it, but you don't realize at the time because you've got this screen and this device in the way of it. When you're actually on stage and you test the material, I feel so much more fear and adrenaline in that moment. It's so much more addictive in like that kind of moment there, because you have got the audience there, which is just insane. And I'm addicted and I love it. And during these times I miss it so much. But yeah, like I love how you say everyone goes, you got a great stage persona. I'm like, I'm faking it till I make it. If I'm honest on that one, fake it till you make it. Acceptable.
No, I think you do a good job. I'm kind of a 6 foot big black guy, so I'm very aware of that in society. So when I go on stage, I feel like I have to be the jovial, comedy, friendly, happy, approachable guy. Where sometimes you come in, you can be taken a bit kind of, not in a Marmite way, but it's kind of, you test and challenge people. Do you know what I mean? You get their ears pringing to something that they may not have considered, whether it's gender or society view. And I like that. So
I've just very much got Chihuahua syndrome. Like I'm going to bark and make a scene.
In regard to that, sorry, Paddy, I just want to talk around that then. So we've talked about this before in the comedy, and I'm fascinated by this bit. So there's the right blend of arrogance and humility, I think, isn't there, with an audience? And different audiences might be different, but everybody finds that bit where they're like, I don't want to be the most arrogant, cocky prick in the world, but I need to be confident. And sometimes some people will say, like Ricky Gervais, for example, said they need to show humility and compassion and punch up, and all that kind of stuff. Is there kind of a contradiction there sometimes with you where you're like, I want to be fearless, i.e. really confident as a lady or as a person, I want to be fearless as a fearless comic, but you also got to show that humility as well to make sure that people don't just think that it's arrogance, that fearlessness?
Yeah, you definitely got to strike that thing. Like when I first came to Manchester, I kind of always wanted to not have the kind of beat yourself down mentality, because I think there's so many, it's so easy to pick on yourself and to kind of do that, because that humor is very stereotypically British, like beat yourself down. And especially when it comes to women, you have to beat yourself down to kind of make women feel comfortable as an audience. That's what I was always traditionally taught, like don't be intimidating, don't be threatening. And I really just wanted to challenge that. So there are times when I will challenge that, but I want to challenge it around difficult subjects. And that does get me into a lot of trouble with older audience members. Like I've got this bit where I'm talking about I don't feel attractive because I haven't been brought up to feel attractive. I haven't been treated attractive in society, like stereotypically what attractive women get treated like. But I tackle it by talking about paedophilia, and that always gets me gonged off. Always gets me gonged off.
I see that.
Yeah, but like, why?
It's funny you use the P word because Andy has a van.
And 4 kids as well.
Not his own, just 4 kids in the van.
Yeah.
Although I will not be getting in your van. I'm like 11 years too legal for you.
Just past that R. Kelly, AJ, that quarantine.
R. Kelly, that's the Scouser's brother down there. That's R. Kelly. You wouldn't want to be called Kelly in Liverpool now, would you? We have a brother called Kelly. That's R. Kelly.
Did your dad heckle you at your home, Dave?
Yeah.
I saw something on YouTube or something about that.
Yes. Oh my God. So
you got to tell us your response.
Oh, I am still mad at him for it. He is banned from my life in general, but he's definitely banned from ever coming to my gigs. It happened at university. I was doing one of those gigs and I invited him down, one of the assessment gigs, and I had a feeling he'd say something stupid. So I prepared like the first line, but I hadn't prepared the second line. And I was just talking to the crowd, telling the crowd like what kind of kid my dad was at school, and told like the story about this teacher he had dentures and couldn't say words with S properly. So he used to go and he'd be like, "Sit down, boys." And one day my dad didn't sit down and the teacher went, "Boy, why aren't you shitting?" And of course that's funny. Yeah. But like the room weren't really feeling it. And my dad turned around and heckled the audience. So they laughed a lot more than you did. And I was like, this is my assessment. I'm not letting you take this power right. And I said to him, getting heckled is like when a guy pulls out and comes all over you. Sometimes it happens, but it's really unappreciated.
I know what you mean.
But the thing is, I looked at him and his face was like, "Oh my God."
Oh,
and then it just fell out of my mouth. I just went, "And that's what you should have done when conceiving me." And that is my go-to storyline. And unfortunately, how I also tell when people it gets me into so many trouble in job interviews.
Yeah.
Like they go, "How do you deal with difficult situations?" "Oh, you do stand-up comedy." And I'm like, "Yeah, hecklers, just on the spot, you got to deal with it." And they go, "Tell us your best heckle." I'm like, "You really don't want to hear it." And then they push for it, and I'm like, "You know what? You asked for it, but it's really, it's not my fault if you don't hire me now because you asked for me to do this."
Yeah. Absolutely. So Scarlett, you mentioned that you're from a very kind of feminist background and you believe in feminism. Now, stand-up comedy seems to be, in the experience I've had, a very male-dominated environment, a male-dominated industry. So just kind of for the listeners, for maybe our female listeners, how do you cope with being in that environment? Obviously, even on the podcast, you're one female amongst 4 guys. How does that make you feel on a daily basis in that environment? In that, give us your time of phrase.
It's just one of those where you just have to sit in the room and just hope they're not talking about football in the green room, so you can actually relate to what the hell they're going to be talking about. And then you watch them and it's like, "Oh, I've got a dysfunctioning junk and I'm single. Oh, and I hate my ex-wife." So it's kind of one of those where you're just like, I've heard it all before.
Always me.
Yeah, it's Andy.
Is it something that you've always been comfortable with?
The guys talk about their dysfunctional junks, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as I know it's not working, it won't bother me.
Absolutely. And just going off topic, obviously you are a young lady, some may consider attractive. How do you cope with the kind of
my mother loves, so thank you.
How do you cope with the kind of the sleaze bags out there, the kind of Weinsteins out there that just are a bit pervy?
This is like I realise, and I have started addressing the issue that I have. I think, bless Ash Preston, like he told me he was really scared when he first met me, and I was really snappy at him when I first met him as well, because he wanted to compliment me on the way I dressed, but I took it completely wrong. I was like, "How dare you objectify me?" And he was like, "No, I just meant you look lovely, and you look, that's I'm trying to be nice." But it's because, and I felt when it came to coming back down to like the South. And Southern comics, sometimes like I would have really dumb shit said to me, and I do say like what actually happened in my set. I was doing one of the competitions down in London, like when I was just early on in my career. Not that I even have like a professional career, but when I'm just trying to start up. And the guy was like, "Oh, your jokes are good, but your ass is better." Now,
wow.
I mean, like what joke I say is, I mean, he's got a point. He's right, and I try and like downplay it and like take the power away from him. I think that's the main thing to do. Like, I'm not going to allow somebody to not actually take me for the work that I put into my art and my craft. I'm going to take whatever stupid objectification you have away from you. I'm going to take that power and I'm going to use it for me.
Yeah. I think you said the same thing to me. I was very offended, I must admit.
Do you find it challenging with other women though, because you're not the now, oh god, I'm going to get so vilified for this, but unfortunately you're not that kind of Sarah Millican looking female comic. You're not Joe Brand.
Oh, you can't be saying stuff like that.
I know. Do you know what I mean? Do you get a bit of bitchiness from other women about kind of how you look?
I mean, I've never really fussed with the way I look, even with guys. A lot of the time I will turn up with absolutely no makeup and not really that much of a fuss or a care. And if you're not going to comment on my work, I don't give a damn. I'm just that comfortable in my own skin. I'm very lucky in that sense, because I wouldn't say I'm the most attractive, because I genuinely don't feel like that's a thing I want to put out there. I don't want to come across as I put my looks out first and then I put my personality. I'd rather be a good person before doing anything else. But if someone says something nasty about the way I look, I genuinely don't really care. Or if they've got some bitchy problem because I might be attractive to males and that's intimidating on stage, just take for what the work I do. I think that's the main thing. Like, comedy and laughter has genuinely no creed. It's a lot harder to go on stage the first 10 seconds when you are a woman, because there's that kind of societal stigma of women aren't funny, and that's still being challenged. Women aren't funny. Well, my writing and my punchlines, if you take the gender out of it and go for the non-gendered punchlines I write, a guy could write exactly the same.
Absolutely. Can you just go through the Cocoa Pops joke for me, please?
Oh my god, I love the Cocoa Pops. And this joke has got me into trouble, even though it genuinely shouldn't. And I will explain why the joke shouldn't in like an academic sense as well. So I've got a joke where I talk about being mixed race, and I'll actually tell the joke. So people often ask me like, how are you mixed race? And it's actually because my grandma liked brown dick. What can I say? Grandma loved the Cocoa Pops. Cocoa Pops is ironically what we used to call Granddad. Like, that joke, when I say Cocoa Pops, the Cocoa Pops line gets me into trouble when it shouldn't, because there is, because of Black Eyed Peas, and also that's the kind of population, they were like, oh, put your milk in the Cocoa Pops. So now you've actually genderfied like males of like BAME male members, and in my family, Pops like stands for proper old person, and I've got a white granddad and I've got an ethnic granddad, and it's fun for me to be able to say Cocoa Pops because it's cute, it's endearing, it kind of fucks with the persona of me being this kind of like test the water material, and it's just a bit shocking and outrageous to come and just say I'm mixed race, because the fact is my white grandma fucked a brown man. Like that's just fact. But it gets you into trouble because they're like, oh, can she actually get away with saying that? And when I say they say that, white woke people tell me off about that joke. It's like, you're just offended because you can't say that.
Yeah.
That's where the offence lies. So
I think there's I can't speak for the whole black population, but as a black man myself, I can't see any offence in that joke. It's just a very kind of PG-13, but waking up people's ears. You know what I mean? But it's the
wrong thing to say. But I just want to when that joke comes out and when you say that, I just want to be sitting in the audience looking round to see how people react, because I just think it's that type of joke, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a very cheeky kind of like I know what I'm doing with it. I know exactly what I'm doing with it, but it's the way that like 6 months ago, bang on round of applause. Now you can actually see jokes age with time and change with like social situations. People are going, you can't say that. I'm like, but it's my heritage. He's my granddad. Yes, I bloody can.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's a bit with Louis C.K. I think as well in Talking Funny.
Louis C.K. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to go controversial. Louis C.K. now, yeah. But he talks about his work as well, which I've kind of seen with some of mine as well, where it'll go well and it seems to get better and better, and I think I've got something, and then it kind of probably the way that I tell it or whatever, and it seems to go off. And he talks about it being like fruit, and he says you have this thing, you make it better, and it ripens, and then you make it better and better. At some point, it just goes, and it's just gone. That joke's gone. You can't really deliver it in the same way that you used to as well. It's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes
he basically just described his career. It got better and better and better, and then everyone discovered he is a fuckhead.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I think.
Oh God.
I think Louis C.K. is fucking phenomenal, and I agree that he did some bad things. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to stand up for in this age now.
Andy, you're reminding me of the black population in America.
Don't ask his opinion on Michael Jackson.
He didn't do. Yeah, exactly. He gets put into the same category of people like Michael Jackson and stuff. Whereas he masturbated in front of people, and he asked if he could do it, which is fucking weird. But it's not raping people. It's not.
You said don't ask. Just do it.
Taking advantage of new upcoming comics. That kind of it basically. I've had a kind of similar situation like this, and that's why maybe like Daddy was just like saying you're fearless on your Instagram, because I have publicly posted about it. And I will say, like, Louis C.K. was at the time when nobody knew what he was doing, or what he was doing was being quashed to the general society, very good. And I will say that because comedy needs to be taken of its time. But then you also, when you say statements like that, you've also got to question the likes of Bill Cosby. It's like, ugh, he was doing bad things, but nobody really knew, and people were laughing. And it's kind of got that, if you take away all the nasty acts that he's done, it's kind of still got that, like,
I understand that.
I understand that. Great artist, but in his personal life, it's very questionable.
Yeah, but I personally, there's two bits there, and I totally agree that it was sounds like it was a wrong thing to do. Nobody was there or anything, but to compare what he did in a line with something like Bill Cosby, to me, is a total, that's totally way kind of too far with it. But I totally do agree. I 100% agree on the power, because I think it was interesting what you were saying before about the guy saying about your ass or that kind of thing or whatever. And I thought it was a really intelligent way to spin it about that it's about power, and you weren't going to let that person take the power. And that's where I totally agree that doing that kind of thing, abuse of power within that is the main issue. That's more than the actual, maybe the sexual issue in some ways. And I think a lot of sexual abuse and a lot of sexual things in that kind of environment psychologically are about power, aren't they? They say like rape is actually more about power than it is about sex and stuff. So absolutely. I do totally agree on that.
Yeah. It's like, so the situation with the whole Louis C.K. thing, I can kind of, when you're saying it's not as bad as Bill Cosby, you are correct, because Bill Cosby was charged as a paedophile, and Louis C.K. is just come out as a fucking creep. He's not really been charged for anything, so in the eyes of the law, he's not done anything wrong. But in the sense as like a new female comic in a male-dominated world, you go to other male comics for advice. You don't go there to kind of flirt or things like that. You're just like, you're in a position that's better than me. Would you talk to me to be able to give me advice on where I can move up to? And it's where that then in that position when you've gone, yeah, I'll do that, but I'm going to make you feel really awkward. I'm going to do these things. So test where if you really, really, really want it, and to abuse like that position is where the problem comes in.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah, I guess we can all judge as well. And I'm not standing up for him in that regard. I do totally agree. But I've not been in a position where I'm kind of, I mean, he was called the Beyonce of comedy, wasn't he? Like, he was probably the biggest comic in the whole world, Louis C.K. at that time. And there's a bit that Bill Burr does, which is very interesting, which is about, like, judging Tiger Woods and stuff as well for cheating on his wife. But he's like, how can I judge that? I play golf, and when I get onto the 19th hole in the bar, there's not a fucking coach load of Swedish volleyball players trying to blow me in a queue, and you're like, yeah, it built someone like Bill Burr really touches the edges of what we judge in and stuff like that as well. Like, it's interesting, isn't it? Power does get abused, and I totally do agree that Louis C.K. there was abuse of power, absolutely. But I think his work was phenomenal in some regards as well. But yeah, it's a touchy one, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
It sounds like I'm standing up for Louis C.K., which I'm not. But
no, I think you're like a lot of us. We all are fans of different musicians, Hollywood artists, actors, producers, directors that unfortunately they are human. They have got a really checkered past in some cases. You know, if you look at your grandparents and your uncles and aunties, they at some point they liked what's his name, Freddie Starr, not Freddie Starr, Gary Glitter. You know, people like that. Jimmy Savile. You know, we didn't know from my generation and my culture. It was R. Kelly. You know, the video actually came out, and people still listen to those songs and dance to them at weddings and at christenings. Can you imagine? So it is a very mixed society that we live in, that people can have these talents, but unfortunately they can succumb to being just fucking evil people, let's be honest.
And it's fair comment. I mean, and obviously thinking forward, at some point one of us might become incredibly famous, and only one of us actually broadcasts from a van. So I don't know whether, that'll sort of catch up with you at some point, Andy. You defended Louis C.K., that's all I'm saying.
He sat in his van defending Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Scarlett, I think one of the topics we were going to talk about was dating. I mean, would you ever date a man in a van?
Is this your way of wingmanning? Because it's really not working. I don't care if you try.
You're far too old.
There's enough room for three in the front.
This van's full, don't worry. Got my missus and 4 kids in it on some days, so yeah, we're all good. But I mean, I got this van. The first thing I said to my missus was, she said, "Why have you got a van?" And I said, "Because I'm a rapist." So for me, a girl's got to have a sense of humour. But where do you stand on sense of humour then, Scarlett?
I think you've got to be really careful, because it depends where it is on stage and where it is. Like, humour literally is not only of its time, but it's of the moment. So a lot of like comedian chats that I have are absolutely hilarious, because if they were in the general public knowledge, like, I'm getting cancelled. So many people are getting cancelled. Like, it's just kind of testing the outrage for me. But you have obviously got to have humour. I will not date somebody who doesn't make me laugh, which means I'm not dating a lot of comedians, because you might be funny on stage. You're going to be so funny on stage, but when you come off, you're like the most boring, bland individual with, like, I don't know what is going on with you, but you're just going to stare. And I'm like, I can't be dealing with this rabbit in the headlight nonsense. No.
So who are your favourite comics? Who influenced you? Apart from Louis C.K.
Drop it. Bloody hell.
So I think the first female comic that really inspired me, now I kind of grew up with like Jo Brand, Joan Rivers, and kind of like they were the two women on like TV that everybody knew, and I wasn't relating to them because as much as I could relate to Jo Brand's earlier work when I learnt about it and openly went to go seek for it during like the 1980s when she was going through her punk phase, which was totally awesome, and I couldn't recommend any other like women to go watch it anymore. Like you have to go watch Jo Brand in her early days. Like the first female comic that really like opened my eyes to what could be achieved was Louisa Ommerland. So Louisa Ommerland, not many people actually know about her, even though she's got a massive following on Instagram, because whenever I talk to people, they're like, oh, Louisa Ommerland, I've never heard of that. She's absolutely huge, and she's kind of should be a lot bigger than what she is. And I think that's kind of media.
Like Annie Wong, would you say?
I didn't see Ali Wong's great, but I couldn't relate to her what I first saw with her, because she was talking about being pregnant and having a baby. Like every single woman I watched before Louisa Ommerland was talking about having a baby, being divorced, or being a lesbian. Now, like I'm on the LGBTQ plus spectrum, but at that time I wasn't kind of out of the closet. I'm still not really out of the closet. I'm just popping my head out and going, you're right, guys. All right, I'm gonna go back in now. But I'd never seen a single fierce woman before, and I saw that, and like it was just so fun and intriguing and endearing, as well as absolutely making me cry my eyes out, hilarious, and just one of those moments where you're just like, damn, like something I can definitely relate to can be achieved, because she was talking about being a single mom. She was talking about her mum being an immigrant. She wasn't talking about being a single mum. She was brought up by a single mum. She was talking about her mum being an immigrant. She was talking about being single. A lot of those things at the time when I first saw her were like quite a bit of a pinnacle thing in my life. And I was like, oh, I can really relate to this work. So I've got flying the banner for Louisa Ommerland. I think quite a few upcoming comics need to get a shout out, like Rob Mulholland. I love his podcast. He's great, and also such a lovely, friendly giant. If you ever get to talk to him, a lot of like the Northwest comics deserve a lot more airtime than they get. And there's a lot of female comics that are up and coming, and I'm really happy that they are doing that, because they're making waves that need to be made.
Who would you pick then? Out of a couple that you've seen, who would you be approaching with a podcast like this that you think needs that airtime, deserves that?
So I would say Erica Ehler. She's just absolutely killer. She was in the So You Think You're Funny competition, which was a shock to the system, not because she didn't deserve to be there, she did, but because you do So You Think You're Funny once in your career, and most of the time people don't do it until they've gone like quite a few years and people know who they are. And she was just like, I'm just going to do it. Got herself to the final after like absolutely annihilating Student Chortle. So she's killer, like literally killer. I would say Laura Tellwright. She's early on in her career, but she's just got this wonderful stage persona, which is just like, oh. Even though she's saying like mad, silly shit, you're like, oh. So yeah, give Laura a shout as well.
Very good. Now, can I just ask a question about, was it Louisa Ommerland?
Louisa Ommerland.
Louisa Ommerland. You mentioned there that she was fearless but also endearing. Yeah. So what were the qualities that you found really likable about her? Because that was the kind of that question that I asked you a while ago about being fearless but also getting that proper likability and endearingness into there.
It was kind of so she's got this thigh gap viral joke. So when you search her on YouTube, her joke is like, it's an internet sensation, and it's basically she kind of talks like she's just takes off her trousers and she's just standing there in her Spanx and her underwear. And just I'm not going to ruin the joke for you, and also I don't want to copyright and get myself into trouble. And I will never do that joke justice. But it's one of those when you're just like that, like the way she played it into getting into the situation where she's just standing there in her Spanx, and then she just takes the power in the moment, delivers the punchline, and you're like, oh damn, queen. Yes, queen.
Okay.
Nice. You're looking out for that. I'll give it to that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Dalu, you asked Scarlett, did you have some questions for us? So you got the opportunity here to speak to some middle-aged men about any issues and things. We talk generally about male issues, so it's great to have the female perspective on. But are there any questions that you would take? We are open and honest men that you'd want to kind of push our buttons with.
Basically, I haven't really had a dad to answer these questions, so I'm really thankful you guys are doing it. Well,
you have, though. Give us the background on that, then, because you said that he came to your gig, but he's kind of a bit estranged from your life. So
yeah, so I did grow up with my father being a physical presence, but he wasn't a mental or emotional presence. So it kind of was weird. So if it really does feel like a lot, my mum will always say, like, I'm the one who had to raise you, because genuinely she did. He was like in the house, but he wasn't available for conversations or available to be there. And it feels like he's a kind human being, but he's just a useless dad. It's like he used having children to kind of give him a place in society, so you can talk about, oh, my girls are doing this, look how wonderful they are, and everyone's like, oh, he's so great, he loves his children. And it's like, he does not even hug me. So yeah.
So where are you with it? Do you speak to your dad then regularly at all, or not, or is that kind of?
I'm cancelling that. If that's a contract, I'm definitely cancelling that. Never paid him. My life it's one of those where it's just like everyone makes you like talk to your parents. You've got to respect your parents, but it's like you respect them to a point. If they're going to keep doing bad, you've got to kind of let it go, because otherwise you're going to keep bringing up the issues and re-spinning those issues. And a lot of, I would say, the problems I have with men will stem back to the way he's not shown me how I should be treated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of those where he's not my father, he's just a sperm donor to my mother.
It's interesting because I think I've used that phrase before on this about my own father. So what you just said there, I absolutely love that phrase that you've just said there, and I'd love to be in that position where you can make that justification, because I've still got that sort of family. And what would people think if I didn't have that interaction? And for you to be able to turn around and sort of put it in that perspective, I really admire that, and it's a good place to be.
It's taken a lot of years to do that, and it's kind of one of those where you do get into a lot of trouble with people who are kind of stuck in society norms of going, oh, but you shouldn't talk about your dad like that. And I'm like, well, if you don't pay my bills and he doesn't, then why should I give a damn?
I love that. You all right, Ben?
Bless you. Corona.
Did you just turn away then because you were going to sneeze live on air and you didn't want to make the noise? So what you did was just rattle your fucking microphone as loud as you could. I did my best.
I've got ringing in my ear now.
I will say, because I did see some of your guys' faces, and I know that some of you are dads, and it's quite hard for you guys to hear someone say that, especially when you are a parent and someone goes like a child of a and goes like, oh, they're a useless parent. But it's like, and I know that's a really harsh thing to say, but it is meant for me. I don't have any kids, but I know that when I do have my children, it's an absolute honor to be a parent. It might be tiring, it might make me bankrupt, it might drive me up the bloody wall. I have a feeling it will do all of those and give me wrinkles and grey hairs and sleepless nights. But at the end of the day, it was my choice, and it's going to be an absolute honor to have those little people in my life. I'm not going to ever take that for granted, and I definitely do not want to do that with a male who is never going to be present for it, or a female if I adopt, who again is going to be emotionally unavailable and all those things. Like, to be a parent is an honor.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Personally, from my side of it, having the 4 kids, that it's the opposite, Scarlett. It makes me feel more positive about it because I have 2 children from a previous marriage, and that's my biggest kind of fears sometimes, I guess, are that relationship becomes distant and so on. But where we have regular contact, they regularly sleep over, I'm always there for them. I try and be there for them emotionally and talk the way that we talk on. Men don't talk about emotions and feelings, and it's okay to show it. So actually, it's the opposite to me. It reassures me that if I'm there for my kids, even when I'm not physically there or can't be there, if they feel that I'm there for them, then hopefully it'd be the opposite. You know,
Yeah.
and that's my biggest kind of hope.
Oh my God! Please talk to the sperm donor for me, please. I do feel really sorry for him, because I understand he thinks he has done the best job he could do by me, because he was brought up without much male presence in his life, and he was brought up with my grandma wasn't exactly like the best grandma ever. She was like 17 when she had him, in like just after the war, so they were still on rations. My dad, unlike the other two, because he had two more sisters, and they got to sit down at the table. He had to stand up. And he had to get all the broken biscuits and all like psychological mad things like that. And it's weird. Like, I feel so sorry for him, but I can't justify it.
Brothers and sisters?
I've got too many.
Oh, really?
I've got too many. I'm the youngest of 5.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So do you think that's where it came from? Because you're the youngest, maybe?
Well, so my mum had 3 before me in a separate marriage, and they are way older than me and my sister. Right. And then me and my sister were from my biological father.
Right.
And
I'm from mine as well.
Prove it.
Yeah, well, so he tells me.
I mean, I would like to question it, because he is Butters, and I don't think I've got any of those genetics. So I think we've got to talk to Mum about the postal system, because she's definitely gone there. Yeah, it's one of those. My dad he's done good by the other 3, but he didn't raise me the way that when you guys are talking, like Andy was talking about raising the kids, like actually having that kind of connection and talking like that. He didn't give me that connection. He didn't raise me to be like that. It was very boomer, get out the house when you're 16, go get a job, like get off my case. Like, I never wanted you in the first place. But I'm happy you're here, which was one of those where it's like, I'm 14, I didn't want to hear that. Just lie.
You can, well, my mum and dad always said that. They always told me I was an accident and all that kind of stuff. But it was tampered with the fact that I knew that they loved me, and they showed affection in different ways and that kind of thing. But yeah, I guess that hits really home if that's how you're kind of feeling, I guess, in a way. And I can totally relate to it, because you see, because I know lots of parents, because I've got kids that go to 2 schools and that kind of thing. So I know loads of parents. I'm a football coach and all that. There are certainly women as well. There are parents out there that just aren't really. It's not really in them. And I think sometimes they are, and it's nice to hear that you maybe recognise that he's maybe done the best job that he can, because you just see it with some parents sometimes where you're like, he needs a bit more, like, or they need a bit more or whatever, and it's just not quite there. They're doing all they can, maybe sometimes, maybe they're not sometimes.
Yeah, Mum definitely trapped him for the Rolex. Let's not lie here on this one. It wasn't even real, it was fake. So she just ended up with like massive debt for raising 2 ungrateful children. So that's what's happened to her. We're a disappointment. She loves us, but we're a disappointment.
Great foundation for comedy, though.
It is. It really, really is. Which is another. I love my mum. She's getting much more supportive with the comedy. But when I first told her, because she's come to this country to get a better life, and then she had 2 more kids in this country, so these kids are meant to have the best life she could possibly ever do. And one of them's going, I want a turbulent career that doesn't actually have any foundations whatsoever. Bless her, she literally just went, being a comedian is no joke.
Where is your mum from?
So my mum was born in Dublin, and her mum's Irish, and my dad, well, no, her mum was Irish, and her dad was Indian Guyanese.
Okay.
So a lot of like the colonial history is that not only were people taken from Africa, they also went over to like India and China and a lot of Asia after colonizing them, and just went, oh hey guys, so apparently we've got a lot of gold, do you want to come dig it up? And my stupid ancestors were like, yes.
Yeah, my girlfriend's dad is from Suriname, which is right next to French Guiana, I think.
The French Guiana is not a thing anymore.
Oh.
But yeah,
Right.
it's now the I think it's called like the Republic of Guyana. But yeah, you are right. There is like there was French, there was Dutch, and there was English Guyana or British Guyana.
Yeah,
and my
my girlfriend's Dutch, and her dad, he's from Suriname, Dutch Suriname. So I presume that whole thing was taken over by Dutch people as well.
Yeah,
probably the English and yeah.
Right, Scarlett. Dalu mentioned you did have some questions.
Onto colonisation.
Yeah.
I'm just getting the questions up.
Those blokes. So you'll get raw honesty. So come on, test us.
So why do I'm going to say certain men and not say all men because it's not fair because not all men. But why do men treat good women badly? And why do good men turn bad because of bad women? And what classifies as a bad woman?
Let's go first one then. Sorry, repeat the first one.
So, why do... Hang on, what was the... I've written it down.
Why do men treat good women badly?
Why do men treat good women badly?
I think from a professional stance, what I've seen from the clients I work with, it all inherently, like psychology, comes down to parenting, comes down to that foundation of how they were brought into this life. So not saying that they have to have both parents, but just in that parent that can show love and affection and how to actually treat people goes a lot for it. And I think a lot of it comes down to being real with your kids and not kind of blindfolding them into this Disney lifestyle, because relationships are the hardest thing that you'll have to do. You know, it's living, breathing, and working and creating a partnership with someone for life, good, bad, and the ugly situations. And not a lot of people are taught that. You know, you have to learn it the hard way, unfortunately, like we all do through relationships. But I think a lot of it has to come down to if the man doesn't have a good role model in his life to show him an example of what a good relationship should look like. That's my answer. Interesting
on the routing. Anyone else with Paddy? Ben, you want to jump in?
I think... sorry, Ben, are you going?
No, after you.
I'm not 100% sure on just like the sort of male role model part. I think male role models are important, but there was a predominantly more females in our family, like sisters, like dad, mum, sister, that type of thing. And we were always with them, and they were extremely strong. And that's the most time I spent was obviously with my mother, so I sort of got that from her. And I think it's just I had an older sister, older siblings. So we spent a lot of time with them. So my influences were them. So it became more, just that interaction from a young age. Not just talking about the usual stuff, the football, this, that, and the other. Just what they were talking about. And I think that probably, I don't know if it's a good evidence, but that's how probably I ended up in the caring profession and sort of doing that type of work where, again, mainly at the time, because I've been doing it, Scarlett, I've been doing it for like 27 years, so I'm used to being the only fella amongst all the women. So not so much now, but going back to the point, I just think it's who around you and who influences you and who these people are that actually have an impact in your life, and how you actually are taught to sort of respect people for being people. So that's my view. And sometimes, some of the bad situations that I've seen have come from a very, very strong stereotypical background of like you say, man's role is his role. He's a breadwinner. He goes out, he plays football, goes to the pub, comes back home, and if his tea's not on the table, I'm not here, I'm 53, so that was an awful lot. We got that. There was a diversity from the way I grew up to a lot of the lads. They were all, that's the way they were going. And you still see it now. Some really good friends, but they go out, they work, and they go home, and they don't expect to do anything in the house. So they're lovely people, but but some of them, you know, some friends I've had that I no longer have weren't, because there was no sort of movement on that. It was like, and it got quite, when it was challenged, that sort of dynamic between men and women was challenged, it didn't work out too well. So, and it's not the sort of people that I want to be around, if you like, even though, you know, they should be supported to sort of look at what their reasons are. And I'd hope, whatever they are, they've actually looked into that. But it's not something I wanted to be around. So the sort of long answer to a short question was, I think it's about who influences you, you know. So hopefully you're not going to become a bad person by the right people around you. Is that similar to what you were saying, Dali, but a slightly different tact?
Absolutely. And I think there's a subheading in there, because I was also thinking, reflecting in the answer, just some women generally like a bad boy. They like the rock and roll lifestyle.
I like that, you know. In myself that when it comes to relationships, I do want someone who's going to treat me well, but I don't respond unless I'm being treated badly because of the way I was brought up, with a lack of empathy and a lack of tactileness, and I had to keep chasing and getting what I wanted out of it, and that's not correct. I want to come at a relationship maturely. I want us to come equally, and I want us to grow and bond and make our relationship better together from rock bottom. But I've never, I recognize that. That's why I need to get that toxic out of my life and restart and start afresh and grow with somebody.
It just reminds me of something that happened. I remember seeing this girl, obviously a very long time ago, and I remember when we first sort of got together, and we went to her house, and she invited me down for a tea. So she'd actually done the tea because she invited me around. So we sat down, and I said to her, so how was your day? And she went, what are you asking me that for? There's something wrong with you. Because her dad was like this typical strong male, and somebody saying that to us was like, are you fucking soft, you? And I was like, okay, let's just try and change the subject. It just was not her way. She just liked someone to, you know, sit there, just whatever. I don't know, ignore her. I don't know what it was, but it just was not her type at all. We just were not. She wanted that sort of fella that just, you know, he was a certain way, and it wasn't me.
I'll go for this one. Go on, Ben. You go first.
I was just going to say, obviously, Dalu and Patrick work in the caring field and have got expert opinions, and they know,
I don't know
about it. They know about it, but I don't think you can account for the fact that there are a lot of bell ends out there. It's true. You can have all the excuses.
Represent, Ben. Represent.
Well, I'm the nicest guy that I know, so
especially in isolation. I will jump in on that one, because I think both people play a part in that statement there about why do men treat women badly. I'll go from my own side first, and I'll try and start from not being a misogynist and extrovert and all this kind of stuff. I'll go with my own mistakes first. So I want to go for a young me, a young, properly, I'm not saying I'm good looking now, I'm just saying I was like a proper, proper ugly, big glasses, massive head, like tiny skinny little body, just no confidence whatsoever. I was so nice, Scarlett. I was the nicest guy, and I treated women so nicely, and I got so little sex. It was unbelievable. Like, absolutely nothing. I was in my 20s when I lost my virginity. I was so nice. Honestly, I was the guy that every parent wanted me to be with their daughter and all that kind of stuff. And then I realised if I turn into a bit of a cocky fucking idiot, then actually, you know, it's a lot easier now to get sex, to protect myself, to not feel emotionally attached. And there was a certain charisma which I actually developed a bit of anger around as well, of being like, why do some, I'm going to use the word some because I know I'm treading on thin ice, why do some women then get some attraction? It seems to me, from my experience, we were talking about genders, so I'm even more careful. Why do some women seek an attraction, or seem to have attraction to that bad boy, if you like, and that anger of, well, why was I a virgin for so fucking long? Because I was so nice. I was so nice.
Honestly, there's been loads of episodes of this show. All we ever talk about is Andy was a virgin for most of his life.
It is
He
still
smashed out 5 kids. Well
He
done.
hasn't waited though, has he? Virgin, 4 kids.
Yeah.
Bang, just like that.
Do you agree with me,
Nobody
Scarlett,
took
though?
you about the condom, did they?
Do you think women have a role to play within it as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the thing is that when I ask those questions, like I'm aware that there's actually not much difference between male and female. Like especially when it comes to like not talking, you think that women talk. We talk about everything else except what's actually relevant, and we talk about what's relevant behind you guys' back because we don't think you can compute what we're actually going through because you don't compute it the way we do. So we go and we talk about it with our really good girlfriends, and then they give you advice and you take that advice on instead of actually taking the advice that you need in your relationship with your partner. I'm very, very aware of stuff like that. And when it comes to like the air of cockiness, it's a thin line between confidence and cockiness, because as a woman you want someone, and I know I want someone who can match me. I do not want to push over. Like the nice guy, I like the nice guy, but I can walk over the nice guy. I'm so aware. I don't abuse that power. I'm just like, you're a nice guy. I can't push that. Like I can't do what I do with everything else in my life. Like I can't keep breaking glass ceilings and hurting you. I need a really confident guy to go, Scarlett, you're actually taking the piss now. And I'll be like, yeah, you know what? Sorry, I am. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's get on with it. But even then, me saying that, it gets really difficult because it's quite an intimidating thing to do. And that's when I recognize the air of cockiness comes in with guys, because you do that once and then you're like, right, I can keep leaving the toilet seat up then. Fuck you. No, you can't. No, you bloody can't.
You can.
Oh,
leave the toilet seat up.
Yeah.
You can. I think the hottest couple in here would be Andy and Scarlett.
You've just got to make sure that it's down by the time your wife comes home.
Oh,
or leave it up all day.
Paddy, stand up for yourself. It stays up.
No.
So what's a pushover then, Scarlett?
It's like when I'm like, so again, I don't abuse my looks, but it's someone who will literally pander to my every needs. I'm aware that I can be a right bloody diva. Oh, I can be a diva sometimes. But I don't want someone to go, yes, Scarlett, no, Scarlett, 3 bags full, Scarlett. I want someone who will be like, okay, be reasonable. You can be a drama queen. You can be a bit of a diva. That's fine. I love you for who you are, all your flaws, everything that you are. But just be reasonable. Sometimes you don't need to yell at inanimate objects just because you're not even mad at that inanimate object. You're just mad because there's something going on in your life and you want to talk about it. So let's talk about it.
I think there's an underplaying theme a lot of the time, which is self-esteem again, which is something we talk about quite a bit. But for me, actually, I think it wasn't necessarily the swagger that did it, or the fact that, I mean, I was dead skinny and I put on muscle, and like none of that, you know, that doesn't, it's not a negative, it's a positive and all that kind of thing. But actually, I think what made it easier for me, it was never been easy, pulling women or whatever, but what made it kind of better, I think, looking back, actually, was my self-esteem improved. And I think self-esteem is a huge attractive quality.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real, like, there's almost like a comedian's callback now to the start when we were talking about that level of arrogance and humility. And I think there's a bit in a relationship where you're like, there's a balance there between being cocky, arrogant, but being confident, and hitting that right kind of balance there. And I guess we find our own in our relationships, don't we? But I do believe that both parties play an equal part. I really do. Really do. I think you've got to stand up for yourself in a relationship for your own self-esteem.
Like the good guys are really good guys, but the good guys are the pushovers, and you don't, like, I really want a good guy who's got that confidence, like, but that's like looking for a needle in a haystack. I'm asking for a unicorn during a coronavirus. It's just not going to happen. It's also not going to happen. I'm on no dating apps. I swear, as soon as I'm going to leave this whole situation, they'll be like, I ain't seen you around here before, and I completed Tinder. Where have you been? I'm like,
what was your second question, Scarlett?
I've written them down for you guys. That's how prepared I am. It's why do good guys turn bad because of bad women, and what constitutes as a bad woman? So it's a question with two parts.
I mean, I could take this. Yeah, Ben, you jump in.
Bloody hell!
I'm chomping at the bit, mate, but I don't want to do that. You jump in. You've had little airtime.
You were all like, I am not taking the. What's about?
I know who will.
Fucking what?
I'll take it if no one else wants to take it.
I'll take it. No,
grenades.
I like I said in the previous response, I'm the nicest guy I know, but what I'm talking about my ex-girlfriend. This could go on. I'm good at that. Oh shit.
He's gone. Welcome to Men Don't Talk. There's always a section in this show where Ben just loses it.
The section in the show where Ben physically stops talking.
Ben, just skip to the do you do charity gigs question.
Scarlett, do you do charity gigs? Just to ignore that question entirely. No, we'll get to that after. I like I say, I'm a good guy. I consider myself a good guy. Nobody else would, but I do. And when I was with my ex-girlfriend, kind of 10 years ago or whatever, I mean, she was a good person too, although people around me didn't think she was. Because she was into a lot of drugs and stuff. And between us, we got, I was taking a lot of coke, mainly coke, which isn't, I hate it now. I wouldn't do it now at all. But I don't think she's a bad person, although other people say she was. Yeah. So yeah, cut a long story short, I know you're waiting for that. I think I wouldn't call them bad women. A woman that's into different things can get a man into different things. Yeah, maybe Bonnie got Clyde into bank robbing. I don't know. I don't know who's the instigator in that. Or maybe Rose West was the worst one.
And Myra Hindley was just misunderstood. I know.
Well, no.
It was Carol Baskin.
Yeah. Carol Baskin, yeah.
That fucking Carol Baskin.
My Louis C.K. bit looks fine now. I'm glad you've got that. Thanks very much.
That's you doing all the charity gigs for Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Getting back to the UK.
Scarlett, can I ask for a dead quick question recap, because I want to just delve into this question a little bit more.
Yeah, two-part question. Why do good men turn bad because of bad women, and what constitutes as a bad woman?
That first bit there, why do good men turn bad because of bad women? Is that something that you've seen yourself? Have you got a place you're coming from with that question?
It was kind of, I've seen, like, we know when you're just like on the sidelines and you're just like, I know I'm good for you. I know like this would work, but you're with everybody else and they're treating you like shit. Why?
Okay, right. Oh, no, that adds a much better level of understanding to the question, yeah. So why don't we see it? Are you asking why somebody doesn't like you in that regard in a way sometimes as well then? Is that what you're saying? Why?
I know why guys don't like me, because I'm absolutely intimidating, and a lot of the time I'm just like, a guy will come up and give me a kiss on the cheek as a friend and I'm like, I didn't invite you to kiss me, we're not that kind of friends, don't touch me. Which is...
That's not a reason.
No, because I do it in front of all the other guys and they're like, oh shit. they don't know where they stand with me. And it does. I'm a temperamental cat. I'm aware of this. Like, I'll be like, I want your attention, but when I demand it.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a nap. So if you ever meet, it'll just be like waving. I'll just do like that's it. It'll just be literally waving like that, and I'll just wait for your response, and then we'll take it from there.
Andy would be your perfect date, Scarlett.
I do have a real angle on anything like this. I love talking about these subjects. I really do. So, sorry, just repeat one more time for me and I'll dive in. Go on. I know it's I need the other bit. I need the second bit. Give me the
second bit is what constitutes as a bad woman. Now, I'm aware that when I did the whole, I don't let guys touch me, blah, 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 that kind of is one of those where it's like a red flag sign and it doesn't seem like I'm a friendly person. I am very friendly. I'm just very one of those. I've got a lot of defense walls, but that, hopefully that doesn't constitute as a bad woman.
My personal perspective on that is that I've been through divorce and I've had similar kind of situations to Ben, actually, who's saying that other people other people said about, like an ex, I'm not going to go into detail, that, the other people weren't keen and all that kind of thing, and probably were saying like similar kind of stuff as you can imagine, like, probably why you're with that person and this kind of stuff. And I personally now, having gone through the divorce and all that kind of thing, I've been through courts and all that kind of system and that as well. I've been in I've been through many things that could make me bitter, I think. I really have. I've been through many experiences that could make me bitter, that could maybe even make me bitter against the opposite sex. And comedy sometimes, for me, I have to be careful with that, because there's a bit of me that wants to play that misogyny role, but also I don't think it's good. Like, I'm not a misogynist. I want things to be equal. So, but what I'm saying is, through my experiences, as a middle-aged man now, I always look at my own faults. I always try and own my own mistakes. So I guess what I'd say to that is that, yeah, there may have been people, and there may have been people of the opposite sex, relationships I've been in and stuff, that have influenced me and my life in a negative way. But I personally, the only thing I can say is that I own those mistakes, because they were my choices. They were my choices that I made. And I own every single mistake that I've made. And I would, I've got children with an ex-wife and stuff as well. So I own it all. It's not about that one person individually at all. There were I didn't stand up for myself within relationships when I was younger, because let's get back into it. I was a virgin till I was I had low self-esteem when it came down to it, and I used comedy as a defense mechanism and all this kind of stuff, and it helped me and probably hindered me. But I do try now, as a middle-aged man that's been through a lot of shit, to go, right, it's on you. It's on you, motherfucker. It's not on somebody else. If someone else influences your life in a bad way, or they don't see you in the way that you think you should see them or whatever, then that's on me. It's on me. That's my take.
So far, is it really clearing everything up for you?
No, that section has completely cleaned up a lot. Just be like, if they don't like me, okay, thank you, next. And I think I do that with a lot. I'm doing that with my dad. I'm doing that with people I don't like. But it's hard when your emotions are involved. It's hard when you like them and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
What? Why not me? But it's true. It is on you then to be like, well, you know what? I'll just prove you wrong, and then you're gonna have to turn around I'll be on my wedding day, and they'll be like, but it should have been me, and I'm like, well, now I'm the one who got away, motherfucker. You fucked it. It's gotta be.
Don't say that in church, though.
Forget the wedding day bit. You can't be looking back. You can't marry someone else to prove fucking someone else wrong.
Yeah.
You can't be looking over your shoulder at the kiss, going, "Yeah, look at this."
No, I would never fuck with marriage. No, one of those. I know why, but I'm just very aware that I've been single for 3 years. It was a hard breakup from the love of my life. It was also the next stage was I wanted to call him fuck buddy. He called himself lover, which was fucking weird. But I was in my early 20s.
Is he from Bristol?
No, he's
lover.
You ain't my lover, Al Best. No, he wasn't. It wasn't that. But it was one of those where he kind of I'd never been in a non-committal but sexual relationship, and it was very mature, and I thought I was handling it pretty well, but he kind of abused, I wouldn't say it was abuse, it was because the word isn't abused, but he did mistreat me in the situation, I will say. And when it comes to actually like talking about those kind of situations, I think it's really important to actually speak the truth, because I could say all sorts of terrible bad shit about him, but it's just not correct, and I'm the one who has to live with that situation. But you know, that was quite messy the way he treated me, and it had an effect on my life, and it had an effect on me on the way I was on stage. And it's only around about, I think last month, I kind of got over the situation, but then it kind of raised its ugly head again, and now I've got to get over that kind of situation. So when you do get your emotions involved, you look at somebody who you know is good, but they just are not interested. They're just not interested. It's kind of, you know what, just let it go. Because, and I joke around saying, oh, when I'm getting married, they're going to be like, oh, you're Scarlett, you're the one who got away. You know what? If they don't care now, I don't want them to care on my wedding day, and I'm not going to be getting married to get back at them. I just want a pretty dress.
There's an interesting side of that, I think, as well. Like, I've probably been in that side of it where someone wanted me to care a little bit more, and I've also been in the side where I've wanted someone else to care more about me. And sure, everyone's kind of been in that scenario to some degree. And there's a bit of like a male-female dynamic within that, I think, as well. And there was, I don't know, some of my male friends and people that I associate with from a male point of view had a problem with me at one stage where I was with someone and it was a casual relationship. I think maybe she wanted it to be a bit more, possibly. I don't know. That sounds arrogant even saying that, doesn't it? But some of my male friends were like, just do it. Just, you know, it's fine. Just do it. And it just felt a bit weird. It felt like you were having to lie about it. It felt like it was like you were having to like, to get sex, basically. You were having to pretend a little bit more or say a few things that you didn't really mean or whatever. And I think some guys think that's absolutely fine. That's just what you do. That's what you have to do sometimes, and they know the score. And I think there's some truth in that. I don't think that's an absolute statement that's totally wrong. I think it is wrong, but there's some truth within it. But I also think that it's just dishonest, and I didn't like it, and I really pulled back from that situation. And it's almost like a toxic masculinity kind of thing there, isn't there? Of the guy is the guy. He does what he wants. He says what he needs to get sex. He does what he needs to in this life, and blah blah blah. And there's a
famous phrase. Sorry to interrupt you, Andy. There's a famous phrase. I think it's actually written by a woman that it states, "Only a man can, only a woman can fake an orgasm, but only a man can fake a whole relationship."
Preach, sister, preach.
It's a horrible statement, but it kind of rings true. But yeah, I think Ben and Andy hit the nail on the head. Ben, in what you said before about sometimes we just choose bellends. You know, if we're honest, we've all been in relationships where we know this person is not right for us. We know it's not going anywhere. We just know that it might be good for the sex, or it might be good for whatever other reason. But in your soul, in your gut, there's something that told you that this person wasn't right for you. And when you do meet that right person, it's easy. It's just easy. It's a whole different ball game when you're with the right person. I think what makes a man turn bad is probably just multiple experiences of that, where you're trying to be the good guy and it's being rejected, and you're still putting yourself out there, and then you realize, actually, like Andy mentioned, this new change in my personality, if I act a bit more cocky, I actually get to protect myself, but I get more of what I actually wanted by being less of me. And then there's that other kind of onion to unravel, in the fact that we sometimes just go for bellends. We just do it. We just do it. We go for that hot. We go for that hot woman that is out of our league, that's probably sleeps around. We go for the hot guy that's probably stupid and dumb, that can't intellectually stimulate us because he looks good. Do you know what I mean? We don't go for the nice guy who's going to treat us well, because we want the guy that slightly rejects us because I need validation from my dad. You know, it's a whole flipping ball game of emotions. And I think the more you get older, the more chance you get to reflect. It's a lot better. I'm married now, and one of the things that before I stepped into marriage, we did a weird little counselling thing where we actually got through a book, and you had to understand each other's cultures, backgrounds, how your parents handled a situation, an argument.
I'm gonna, Dalu, you need to be there whenever I meet a man. Can you vet him, please? Vet him.
He can be your
go through the book with me, because there is so many cultural significant difference like get in the way. Like, you'd be so surprised. I'm not even that mixed. Like, I'm mixed race, and I actually feel quite detached from all my heritage, but you know, because I do like have to touch my eldest feet when I see them, because it's a sign of respect, and because I eat curry with my hands, and because if a guy does go out with me, you have to ask my mum's permission before it's official, because I want you to show that level of respect to me. Literally, guys don't appreciate it. You need to know my culture. You need to appreciate me. You don't. I
think in just both hands, Scarlett, that and this is only me talking as I've grown older, 35 now, and had lots of time to reflect upon this and read that bloody book. But it works both ways. So it comes through love. It sounds really cheesy, but as much as you want him to love your culture, your experiences, and your perception of the world, you've also got to appreciate his. So that comes in that communication, in that building the foundation for the relationship. And not a lot of people, we don't know how to get there. I'm still learning myself. But that took me having to bloody study something to get there. We all think, just eyes glisten. Oh my God! Oh, he's so amazing. She's so amazing. We're going to spend the rest of our lives together. And it's not. You know, when the bills start coming in, and when the kids are around, and you haven't got time to talk and communicate and get those things, it's not the person being bad. It's just you don't know how to deal with them in a bad situation, and that can then magnify certain bad traits and personalities. But again, to just be the devil's advocate, we just like Belen sometimes.
Did you know?
I'm gonna listen to this back when I start dating again. I'm re-listening to this whole podcast again. Like, remind myself.
Hello, I've gone here. Lovely.
Did you know Fred West?
Wisdom.
Sorry, Ben's going.
Do you know that Fred West used to eat onions like eat apples? Honestly, he used to eat onions like that.
There's a kid. One of my kids who's 9. His mate at school eats onions raw like that. So what you're saying is the next Fred West.
Yeah. Yes. Check under the patio.
How the fuck did we go to that? I would say to anybody out there, and you're single, Scarlett, at the minute, I would say that there's probably advice from all of us, and I might be speaking for all of us, I don't know. Again, I'm sounding like an arrogant twat, aren't I? But the mistakes that I've made in my life have been about that lower self-esteem. So I always look for someone else to kind of complete my life, to complete me. And I think a lot of people do that. I think everybody does that to some degree. They always think, it'd be better when I'm with someone else and we'll be able to share this and that and whatever. But single time for me, if it did happen again, I'm engaged, and I don't think it will. She's loving my life, but if single time for me would be a totally different experience, I know it would now, having seen a counsellor recently and stuff as well, and talked about self-esteem, it would be a different experience now than how it was treated before. It really would. It would be, okay, I deserve to give myself time. I deserve to give myself to develop myself, my skills, my relationships, my friendships. I deserve that time as well as wanting to share that time with someone else. And I think we can... I always had this cheesy thing, right? Someone said to me once that, like, I was so desperate to be in love with someone as well as lose my virginity, all that kind of thing. I was desperate for that emotional kind of side of it as well. I'm not saying that you are, but... Someone said to me on a film something like love's like a magic eye picture. You can't look too hard. One day if you relax, it just comes, doesn't it? And it's kind of been like that in my life. Like I found kind of like true love and relationship with my partner and I wasn't looking in any way whatsoever. And I just think the key, again, I keep talking about self-esteem because it's around my side of things, but it's very important when you're single, I think, or it will be for me if it ever happened again, that we're worth the time as well, that you are worth your own time.
Oh yeah, like last year I took a year practically of celibacy to try and like focus on my career and what I wanted to achieve, and I had a great time. I'm having another year of that, but that's I think the whole world is, so it'll be we're all in this together, guys. Self-appreciation time. And it was really important for me to definitely take that year out, because like the previous 18 months I just went absolutely wild. Like I was oh no, I was a nightmare on a night out. Like I would walk in with my friends and you would not see me until I brought somebody back to theirs. Like that's how bad it was, and I don't even know their names. It was my slutty years. They were fun for the stories, but they were not good for my actual self-esteem, because I wanted somebody to validate my existence instead of me validating me for my person and for who I am, which is a good person. So I've actually taken the time to really bond with my relationships with myself, with my friends, with my family, and to take back and notice that I don't want to settle down, settle for. I want to settle down. There is such a difference. I'm not going to just, I don't want someone who doesn't, I don't need completion. I will come whole or broken or whatever I am, but it is what it is, and you need to appreciate, accept that, and I will do exactly the same for you.
That's great. Yeah.
Paddy.
God, you've talked about a lot there, haven't you?
Yeah.
Hey up. Tell you what. There's only two things that I would say, two particular relationships when we talk about when you say women going bad, right? They weren't bad, which is an interesting statement when I'm so critical of males. But anyway, it's because in both of them, I found out the significant things had happened to them during their lives, which I found out during the relationship, and they were really struggling with them, and they were really struggling with how to manage them. And both of them impacted in significantly different ways. And both of them, ultimately, I couldn't, because they were not in a position where no matter what, they could address it. With one point I left, and in the other point it was a mutual agreement, because the person went, I'm not there yet, and if you're not going to stay, then that's entirely up to you, but I'm happy for you to just go. And the difficulty on that one was because it's not that I didn't want to stay, it was the behaviour that was coming with it. I couldn't cope with that part of it. So, and then when they finished, and they both had a significant impact, I remember going, having another relationship with someone, and I ended it, and I was really harsh. And I remember saying, this is the reason why it's ended, and I just went boom and finished. And then I remember leaving and getting in the car and going, oh hello, oh my word, that's not like me to do something like that. It was that sort of straight. I even shocked myself. And not in a proud way, but I just couldn't believe I've actually done it. So in some ways, that had sort of changed me to be that harsh and finish it. It was the right decision, but it was overly harsh in the way I did it. And I think that's one. So I had to sort of put myself in check. So they're the two things. I don't want to go into, obviously, because you've talked some really brilliant stuff there. So I don't want to put a huge amount in, but they're just my two things. I went a little bit over the top because of the two relationships before, but they weren't bad people. They just had bad situations happened where they weren't in a position to deal with them yet, and the impact of their relationship that had on us. And so that's it.
I don't think, you don't know the situation, but I don't think it necessarily was too harsh. I think a lot of the time some people stay in relationships that they know are over, and that's harsh. People do it for the wrong reasons, and they stay together for the kids and all that kind of stuff. And it just doesn't work for me, that once a relationship's done, you have this feeling, and you both feel it, you both know it. And Scarlett, you were saying about that relationship before, or whatever, where, it was a foot buddy thing or whatever from one side and not the other. I truly believe that most of the time people, you both know. You both know what the score is. You both know what it is and what it isn't. And I think staying and pretending would have been the harsh thing to do, possibly, Paddy, in that thing.
There was no pretense. We were both really clear what was going on. It was just trying to work at it to sort it out and realising that actually, and it was probably a bit about me not being wanting to sort of, well, there was a commitment. There was commitment right from the word go, but it was that sort of not being able to, seeing someone hurting, when you're seeing someone hurting, and that's the hard part, is because you can't, the wrong phrase is fix. It's not. It's about actually sort of work around it. When you see someone in that much pain, and when the person becomes aware of it, but is not in a position where they're able to actually move themselves to deal with it. But it's not just that. It's that pain has an impact in how they behave towards you, and that was unacceptable. And that's where I had to say, listen, I'm prepared to stay so long. I'm really committed, but I can't take that sort of behaviour. So, and that's the way, that's the way it is. But like, it wasn't a question of, we're just both fed up now. It's wearing socks in bed's getting on my nerves. I've just had enough. It wasn't anything like that.
Scott, there's a few kind of like, we're getting to the tail end, but there's a few kind of questions that we do like to ask people, kind of standard kind of ones. What do you do when life gets shit? What's your coping mechanisms?
So, my life has turned to shit completely at the moment, along with the world, and it's been a bit rocky for the last year. So I started exercising, which has become really hard because I'm now back in London with a very small apartment, and I don't really want to go out because everyone's abusing the parks. So I try and do yoga. When I was exercising, I was like doing yoga about 4 times a week, and a proper exercise, like boxercise class, to kind of get the anger out, and also gives you dopamines and serotonin, things like that. Creating always makes me happy. I love making people smile, and I love creating that kind of comedy environment. Comedy has saved my life several times. Like, going back to Robin and saying that he forced me to go on stage, like, it's not true. He was really encouraging. Really, he does not know that he saved my life. I don't think he'll ever find out. But comedy has saved my life many times. And if I can't create like that, then I knit, I read. I just want to do stuff that betters myself. And I think when you are in a position, it's hard to do it, especially when you don't want to get out of bed, and it's easier when you're feeling so much more peaceful when you sleep, because that's when you rest and you don't know, you don't wake up with coronavirus updates on your phone like the world is ending. But even when you have to go to work and you just can't face another day because it's what it is, those are the hardest times to pull yourself to do those things that help you.
We also like to ask if there's anything that's pissing you off at the minute, and I guess with Corona everything's pissing you off. I've got one that kind of comes back to what you were talking about as well. So my missus was listening to the song yesterday, dancing around listening to, and I've got a big thing about like toxic masculinity stuff, so I already said, but that song, that he's got to be so macho, he's got to be big and strong enough to turn me on and all that, and I'm like, I listen to that song and I'm like, this is a bit toxic fucking femininity or whatever this, isn't it? This is like, he's got to be a bloody like fireman to have any kind of like sexual value within the market. And so it's me being oversensitive, I know, but I'm like, he's got to be big and strong enough to turn me on. I'm like, where the fucking hell's this coming from?
Is that Sunita, is it?
No. Andy taking it as a hate crime.
Who was it?
I need a hero.
No, it's not. You said so much, yo.
Gotta be big. He's gotta be bold. I can't sing.
Which song are we talking about? I'm not sure.
He's got to be so.
Different song.
Yeah, it is Sunita. And because the reason why I said that, because at the time she was dating Simon Cowell. I'm not really sure how that actually justifies itself, to be honest.
Right, big and strong enough to turn me on. It is Sunita, so macho. Yeah, it is Sunita.
Listen, I'm the one over 50. I know that song. I'm telling you.
I've never even heard of Sunita. That's why I knew about her from. I've never heard her music. I was just like knew about it from Simon Cowell. That's about it. That's why I was laughing. Like,
yeah.
They're married.
No, it just went out. So,
have you got any good drunken stories?
Me?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're the guest.
I have, but I'm not too sure if they're good for the. Can
I quickly tell my drunken story?
Go on.
Oh.
It better be quick.
Oh, you never is. No, right, right. I was right. To set the scene. Stop laughing, man. Please stop laughing. I'll never get through it.
I'll go off screen.
Stop, buddy, stop.
Yeah. To set the scene, I was in an accident in 2003, and I was in a coma for a month, and lifted back to. Right, I was in Croatia, and I was there back to. Jesus. Stop. It's nothing funny. I was in a coma with serious brain damage. Stop. You twats. So, right. Right. So, anyway, I was in a brain injury rehabilitation hospital in Stoke. And I was there for a long time. So, I got to March. This was July when I got there. And it was March the next year. And I was still in this rehab hospital in Stoke. Spent my year out there. It's fucking awful. And it got to Paddy's Day, and my surname is Shevlin, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm a bit Irish. Not I. Well, I've got like great uncle Declan, but yeah, he's great great uncle Declan. If you come to a fork in the road, take it.
You did momentum, then you had it, Niall. Come on.
You nearly told the whole story there, Ben.
You can do it.
Right, I need these lot to shut up. Right.
I'm turning my mic off.
Yeah. So it got to Paddy's Day, and I said to the OT, "Can we go to the pub?" Because I always have a pint Guinness on Paddy's Day. So she's like, "Yeah." And at the time, I was in a wheelchair. So she took. How disabled are you? Jesus. Right. Yeah. So I got the OTs to take me to the pub. So went to the pub. I had a pint Guinness, and then somehow I persuaded the OT. I said, I'll get a taxi back to the hospital. You go home because it got quite late. Well, in the evening, well after finish time. And I said, I'll get a taxi back after this one. But as it happened, if you drank 6 pints of Guinness, you got a Guinness hat. So I got my Guinness hat, and then was the hospital was about a mile away. So I'm going down the road in my wheelchair, pissed, with a fucking Guinness hat on. The police pull over. Police, you all right, mate? Oh, yeah. What are you doing? You haven't got any lights on your wheelchair? I was like, oh yeah. Are you pissed, ain't you? I was like, maybe. so I will take you back to the hospital. So they took me back into hospital, and they was telling the staff off for leaving a poor brain damaged kid in a wheelchair in a pub. So the next morning I woke up thick-head, but the OT came in. She's crying her eyes out. She couldn't believe it. It's just a really sad ending. Yeah, she's crying. That's it.
Wow.
Every week.
Normally up for a happy ending, but that was amazing.
I've been trying for 3 weeks now. Finally got it out. Jesus. Right.
You haven't asked your question, Ben.
What was the question?
Your question.
What about it?
Do you do charity gigs?
Oh, yeah.
Scott?
Do you do charity gigs, Scarlett?
Only if they're absolute carnage.
Oh, they will be.
Oh, yeah.
I love it when it's batshit crazy.
Oh, yeah. Always. We'll get really pissed as well. That's great.
Right, Scarlett, we're at the end. Is there anything?
Sorry, I'll get you on the bill, yeah?
Yeah.
Great.
Stage time is stage time. Benefit, Louis C.K., bring him back.
Bloody hell. Michael Jackson does charity gigs as well, apparently.
recap the Rose West. That's where he came across. A bit of space at the start and the end, but given the situation, I doubt there's that much to plug, Stella. But is there anything? How do we follow you? What is there anything you want to plug for people to follow you, see you?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page. I don't really put much stuff on it. I do more of my stuff on Instagram and TikTok. So I've got a Facebook, which is Scarlett Dobson Comedy. Like that page, and I usually post a lot more stuff on my Instagram, which is again Scarlett Dobson Comedy. My video content is now going on to TikTok, which is just Scarlett Dobson. Hopefully when we're allowed back outside, I will be doing stuff. Until then, I am doing sketches and reliving old stuff, and potentially doing some live videos with like my mates. I should be doing a podcast, but my mum's really temperamental. So that podcast is pending.
Right. What with your mum?
Yeah. So the podcast will hopefully be Mama Says, because she just chats a lot of shit. Dalu will know that my mum's fucking hilarious on my on Instagram. I just talk to her and record her when she says mad shit.
Great. That sounds great.
Hopefully that will be coming through soon. But I've just got to actually sit her down. Bear in mind, we live in the same house at the moment because I'm looking after her, and yet I can never pin her down to do that. It's mad.
Right. What I've not done with the comics before, sorry, Paddy, is if you had a couple of minutes of material or anything like that recorded from a gig or anything, you've got Dalu's contact numbers there, whatever, but feel free to send that on and we'll put that as a clip at the start to give people a little of an intro. If that's what you want to do, it's entirely up to you.
Sweet, I can see you got me on the TikTok already there.
You all of them?
Yeah, I'm all of them. Why would I post other people's shit? I don't care. So that's about promoting me.
You know your Facebook, is it Scarlett Dobson Comedy or just Scarlett Dobson?
Scarlett Dobson Comedy.
Right.
Okay, great. I mean, I watched some of your stuff before. It's really good. I really like that you've got a unique kind of like voice as well. It's good to hear about the cultural differences and stuff as well. And I really like the fearlessness. It's great.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah, there you
You enjoyed it.
Scarlett. Thank you for coming on today.
You guys can talk to me anytime. You men talk to me all the time.
That was brilliant. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
great. Thank you very much.